Joe, when you pair, what do you avoid? Is it only the long tail? Is it the long flight? Is it what is the main thing that you avoid when you just choosing a pair?
Well, we never pair a long-tailed bird up. If they might carry the gene, which we don't know about, then if they do breed long tail, then they don't breed again for us. We don't like it in the flight because it's a fault.
Yeah,
We need to get rid of this long flight across the world. It needs to disappear, because you can't show the birds, which we enjoy showing the birds, and
yeah,
it brings a good socialization to friends across the country.
yes,
Same with yourself. You visit the
yes,
club show and you have
yes,
friends when you come to shows. So
yes,
these people. This is what we want to see.
yeah,
So breeding longtail is not. We never breed with them. It's bad. You should never buy them. You should never even take them for free,
yeah,
because they will cause you faults. You don't want this.
yeah, yeah.
Uh,
If
Sorry.
you even when you don't put them to maybe short feather birds, something like that.
We've never done it. Potentially that could work. That may work, but then maybe the better birds of that nest may carry that gene still. So we are
Yeah.
trying to eliminate this long tail gene. So the way you eliminate it is by not using it. So that's how we work.
Okay. So this is the like the Mogoven family opinion because we have seen some other champions all over the world. They are using them, and they are making a lot of success on the show bench as well.
Oh, right, okay. Whoever these are, then very well done. We've never attempted this. I'd like to see the birds in the flesh myself to see how they are breeding them,
Yeah.
um, because it's interesting. We find it a fault, so we try not use it. It's like birds with no tails. If it's people find this gene is hereditary, so we try and if we are going to use a bird with no tail, the bird that he or she is paired to must have two tails. That's how we operate.
Okay.
If you don't
So
mind me asking, who has won shows with these birds that have bred from longtail?
yeah.
Who are they?
Uh, for us, you mean, or
Yeah, you just mentioned people around the world have
yeah.
used longtail birds and they have then become successful on the show bench. I'd like to know who they are so I can visit their birds or see their birds online, because it's interesting to know because we breed some really super long tail birds sometimes, maybe one, two, and
Yeah.
we don't use them because we think this is the fault. So
Yeah.
we completely move them out the bedroom.
I will send some names to you in private then.
Okay.
So what other than the long tail issues that you avoid when you pair?
Uh, well, as I was saying there before, birds with no tail. We don't pair birds with no tail together.
Yeah.
Um, we like to breed birds with, say, if, a very good bird with no tail, we pair them to a hen with two tails, like very soft feather, nice feather, short feather. And the babies, they tend to be show birds or good for the breeding team because they have more feather. But as I said earlier on, we keep breeding big birds, so the directional feather and the feather of the flight and the feather of the tail feather, they all become harder to um, to grow
Yeah.
because they're getting bigger. So
Bigger.
we need to restrict paying big birds to big birds because then you struggle more with feather in the future for showing
Yeah.
the birds.
What about the position of the bird? Do you care when you pair them together? The position when they stand. So there is some bird.
Yeah, yeah, distance. Yeah, we don't we tend to not breed with birds that lean over the perch because we always aim to breed show birds. We don't try and breed big buff things. We don't like that. They pop out because obviously it's in the genes of budgies. You can put two pets together and you'll get a bigger budgie. It's just the way of life. So yeah, it's a good question. We don't tend to use birds if we are looking at 10 birds and one is leaning over, he will go to the back or he will not be used. We like to see style is very, very important in the way we select the birds for pairing.
What about the love pairs? So you choose what you choose on the 50 pairs, and the other 40, they might choose each other. Both of them buff, both of them have issues.
Yeah, this is why it's only 40 pairs that are paired together, because they don't match sometimes. It can be a buff bird to buff bird. It can be a dominant pied to a spangle. It can be a violet to an albino. You don't pair the varieties that don't match. And then say if they are a love pair in the flight, we get them out in the show cage. We study the style, the stance, the spots, their head width, their head rise, the back skull. And if they match, they go in the breeding cage. And my dad has built this for 40 plus years now. He's worked very hard on it. So in most of our birds, they have features that we want. Not all of them. They won't have every feature because that's what we thrive towards. We want to breed the bird that has every brilliant feature, but you'll never ever breed a stud full of them because it's impossible. Because if you breed 8 babies, you're going to have a ranking of 1 to 8 of them babies. You're going to have a best one and you're going to have a low end one. So it's the way of life. One
of the guys asking, have you bred a crested before?
No, it's not a variety we've tried. We believe they are very difficult and very frustrating. They are very pretty. They are lovely looking budgies, but I believe they are very difficult to breed. I have a friend who I speak to quite a lot. He's in Pakistan. He breeds crest, and the birds he shows me, they're very good. They would do very well in England, but we don't breed. There's not a lot of English breeders that breed well with crests because they are very difficult to breed. Yesterday I got asked about these new variety in blackface. They're very interesting budgies. Potentially in the future we may try and use these. But we're just starting lacewing. We've bought a couple of birds in lacewing, so that is our new variety that we will try and develop this year.
The Welsh guy asking about fellows.
Well, I'm trying to get my hands on a pair of fallows because it's something that I want to try, because the colours are beautiful. They're very difficult to breed, but it's good to have challenges because everyone needs a challenge. Everyone wants to have a plan. And everyone on here now, they all want to breed better birds. So like us, we all want to be better birds, but the fallows is something that if I can get my hands on, I will breed with. My friend Sam Wild, he has German fallows at the moment, so I'm waiting to him for breed, and then if he has spare babies, I will take them off him.
Sam is doing well with mutations and black face and black and these
Sam is, if anyone ever visits England, if you want to see every variety, a lot of variety, then Sam Wild is the man. He's very he's good with the birds.
Because you will have a large number of pairs and a stud, I think you faced many issues before and diseases and these issues. So can you just explain that the French malt, is it a carrying virus from the parents? Is it the issue from the regime or the diet of the food? Is it from the stress? Maybe the birds are, because using sometimes in the hand or catching them, they are just losing their feather?
Yes.
From your experience, yes?
It's a very good question. Again, this is an opinion-based answer, because everyone will work in different ways. We speak to different breeders that they never have French malt. We speak to breeders that always have French malt.
Yeah.
It's a mixture of many things. In my opinion, I think it's clear you've got to keep the bedroom clean, is for one. The parents will carry this gene, and when they become tired, if you're overbreeding with them, they then can't produce the nutrients for the babies that they are needed to grow into full budgies. And then once it's airborne, I do believe it can spread into other nest boxes. So you can have a new pair with new babies, and they can catch this gene because it becomes airborne. So when a lot of people, when you speak to them, they have French malt, they split up every pair because it's travelled through the bedroom. And we have an advantage to many people because we have 3 bedrooms, which if we do get French malt in one room, it doesn't go into the other 2 rooms.
Yes.
You understand?
Yes.
So this is why we have a high success rate, because many breeders only have 1 bedroom, where and French malt does affect numbers. It kills babies off if it's kind of aggressive. But we've now spoke to many specialists in regards to French malt, and no one seems to have the answer. But I do believe it's down to diet, and as I said before, cleanliness and not overbreeding with the parents. So we've actually started a new product called Starter Mix, which is from Bird Pro. It's a guy called Barry Lloyd, and we're now currently breeding with 14 pairs in one of the aviaries, and we've had over 100 chicks, and not 1 French malt. So we believe the diet is important and cleanliness.
Yeah. And do you hand feed them, or are you just keeping the parents taking care and might be moving some babies?
Yeah, again, there's another benefit of having so many breeding cages. We can move babies around when they're not being fed. When the only ever time we have to hand feed is more towards the end of the season, and we don't have enough pairs to move birds around. But then when birds leave the nest, and then they are moved to the nursery cage, they, for some silly reason, they don't eat. So then you move them back with the parents, and then they have got risk again of not being fed, being attacked, and it's a risky business. So you end up losing this bird, or you have a battle on your hands to try and feed them. But we do hand feed the birds, but it's more toward the end of the season, where the tiredness is kicking in. So
and about the French malt, is it only, when you explain the French malt, is it only losing the flights and the tails, or losing all the feather on the body?
We've had both in the past. So we call, when they lose flights and tails, that is minor French malt. If they are losing body feather and they go bald, then that is extreme French malt, which they'd never ever recover from that. But when we have had French malt in the past, that they lose their flights and tails, 6 months later they have flights and tails again. They grow their flights and feathers back, because we use the diet. We add nutrients and supplements and powders into the feed that helps the follicles grow.
And do you use them after losing the flights and the tails?
If they have flights and tails back from being the French malt, we make notes of when they leave the nest into the nursery cage. If they are French malt, it is noted that they have been French malt. So when we check the birds in 2-3 months' time, they go into the main flights, and if they have recovered, we keep. If they haven't, we put them in the sale beds.
I've heard many people talking about the Mugovan line are not a big birds, but they are stylish. So you don't afraid by the time you will lose the size as well, when all the or most of the your babies are only styles with the average size.
Yeah. Well, as you say, our birds may be smaller than a lot of winners.
Yeah.
But if you go to the shows in England, we seem to win a lot of CCs, certificates.
Yeah.
So obviously the judges like the style and the shape of our birds. Maybe
Yeah.
in years to come, that might be an issue. But we've as I've just told you before, we've bought birds off Daniel. We've done business with Ian Ainley. We're doing business with Sam Wilds. We are outcrossing the birds to breed better birds. We've bought birds off the Millers. We always want to make improvements.
Yes.
Like everyone does. Everyone must make improvements to keep active.
About when we talk about like Daniel or others, some other breeders they don't have an issue about selling any bird. So any bird have his own price. So they don't care much or there is nothing not for sale, you know. Everything have on a price. So as expert, how do you explain that? You know you are focusing, and it's very hard to have something very special as a bird and as a show winner. And when you have this and let it go, how do you think the other breeders are just easy for them to have another champions and another champions and another champions?
It's a good question. It's a very good question. I can't answer it because we don't do that. That is not our method. We don't sell the best birds. We never have. We never will. It's just part of how we operate things here. If we use the birds and we're happy to let them go, then fine. It does happen. We do let really good birds go, but it's generally to loyal customers who've been every year for many years. We like to help them out further than someone who just wants to buy one super bird and then buy. We don't like that. We need to we need a relationship. We need to know the person. They're not just. It's just how we operate. That question is something I will ask to the breeders that you are talking about, and I guess it's like the likes of Daniel and maybe Martin Halen. I've never visited any of their aviaries, but they seem to breed super birds every year without fail. But they also let super birds go, which is crazy, because if we get our 10 best birds out, if we lose 5 of them or sell 5 of them, we're like, well, how do we breed more birds like that when we don't have them? So that's why it's always been difficult for us to let the super birds go. It's just so hard. So.
Actually, from my short experience, where I've been visiting all the world breeders for like 7 or 8 years, I've seen this thought is all in England, that holding the bird. It's very hard to have a good bird from England, but it's much easier if you cross the sea and go all the rest of the
Europe. Country. I don't know what that is. Maybe we were going back before about the European bird and the English bird. Maybe we lose the top quality birds if we let them go, whereas the European bird might not. They might all hold its super gene, whereas maybe all the English birds don't. I don't have the answer to that. It's very difficult.
When we talk, you mentioned before about Joe Maness. Joe Maness was breeding show birds, top birds, and he's selling every year a large amount as well.
Yeah, but Joe Manns never ever used to sell you his best birds. Never ever. He never ever did. because he bred 1,000 birds every year, he can afford to let really super birds go. That was just how he worked.
Yes.
So it's it's very difficult to answer, because I'd like to sell super birds to help people, but if we sell them, then our names don't go on the show benches, and we've got a reputation now that we are one of the higher breeders in England. So we like to stay there, and if we sell our best birds, then we might fall off. We don't know. We might not, but we don't want to take the risk, because it's hard.
Yes, it's hard, and I understand that, because it's really some year you have the success of breeding some quality, some year are, you know, sometimes are not, you know, so it's very hard and to manage that, actually.
It is. It's very hard to manage that. If years come where we breed more birds, say we might be able to breed 700 birds, then we might be able to sell some really super birds, because we can't use all the birds. It's like come October, we will have birds in the keeps like now that we think, well, we might not use them, so we can't then sell. So we will wait and see.
So about the birds and the quality of the birds and all that, do you prefer the autocross from overseas, or from something which is near you, and maybe local breeders?
Well, as time has gone on, as I said before, my dad used to visit Germany once a year for 15 years, and he didn't go anywhere else. He just went to Joe Mann's every year. But then he got to a stage where he was winning best in show. He was winning a lot of certificates. So he then stopped visiting Joe, because he felt his birds were at their peak. So when my dad wanted to buy birds again off Joe, he couldn't buy the birds of quality that he wanted. So we then go local breeders, and we try our luck with them. My dad's bought birds off Arthur Piper down south. We bought off the Millers. We've done swaps with Ian Ainley. So you have to have outcrosses all the time. But then we've come to a stage now where we want better birds again. So that is why we've been in touch with Daniel. So
So as we know,
the answer to your question, we've had birds from England and we've had birds from Europe. So, and we will continue to do that for many years to come. We won't just stick in England, and we won't just stick in Europe. We will have a mixture between, because the bloodlines need to stay fresh.
About this